and it's 10:30. Good morning. Board members online, are you there? Wayne, Angela, Chris?
Chris is here.
Angela, are you still there? And Chris, you're there. Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us this morning for this special meeting of the Board of Education. This special meeting is held annually to authorize the issuance of the Tax and Revenue Anticipation Notes, TRAN, along with other general business. Some board members are attending by phone. Ms. Rauch, would you please call the roll? Ms. Rauch?
Yes, sorry, press the button. Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Danzy?
Here.
Ms. Fix-Lopez?
Here.
Mr. Huang?
Here.
Dr. McGinley?
Here.
Dr. McGinley is present by phone. Dr. McIver?
Here.
Oh, Dr. McIver's here. Okay. Vice President Walker?
Here.
Vice President Walker is participating by phone. President Wilkerson?
Here.
Thank you. And Ms. Ahaya Hinton is absent. And Dr. McColgan?
Present by phone.
Oh, present by phone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rauch. The board will consider the minutes of the June 27th meeting at our next regular action meeting on August 15th. Now I'd like to invite Vice President Wayne Walker to provide important information to our guests.
Thank you, Madam President.
To all 10 of them.
Good morning. Good morning, every 10 of us, every one of us.
We need for you to speak a little louder, please.
I will. Is that better? At every Board of Education meeting, a representative from the Deaf Hearing Communication Center is here to provide sign language interpretation, and we always express our gratitude to them. Representatives from the Office of Family and Community Engagement are in the lobby to help with interpretation services. This meeting is being streamed live at www.philasb.org/live and can be seen on PSTV's Comcast Channel 52 and Verizon Fios Channel 20. The meeting is also being recorded by the school district. The school district's recordings are protected by the copyright laws of the United States and may not be used in any manner without the express written consent of the school district. By participating in today's meetings, members of the public acknowledge that the school district may use these recordings for any purpose without obtaining permission or paying any compensation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I think that's the longest part of our board meeting today. At this time, we're to consider the issuance of the tax and revenue anticipation notes to facilitate the maintenance of operations prior to receiving local and state revenues for school purposes. The school district's Chief Financial Officer, Ori Munson, will brief the board regarding the resolution authorizing this transaction for the TRAN and the note purchase agreement. Mr. Munson.
Good morning, board members. Just to remind you quickly, TRANs are issued primarily because revenues are received unevenly throughout the year. City real estate taxes revenues are received mainly in February and March, and that's about a quarter of our total revenues. We are being as intentional as possible this year, or more intentionally have been in past years, about trying to match our TRAN borrowing to our cash flows. So last year we borrowed $450 million, a one-time borrowing paid back at the end of the year. This is actually the first in a series of two approaches. This first tranche is a total amount of $175 million in a Series A and Series B, $87.5 million of Series A notes purchased by Bank of America, $87.5 million of Series B notes purchased by PNC Bank. We're doing this an initial purchase, $50 million each, so $100 million would be issued today. We locked in a rate this morning of 2.07%. For perspective, the fixed rate on last year's TRAN was 2.55%. Obviously, it's a better rate. Much of that is due to the fact that the market continues to be a very historically low interest rates, which we keep hearing every time I meet with people for about the last decade, but they are historically low. So obviously benefit from that and benefit from the fact that we are in a better position than we have been in the market. We plan to draw the remaining $75 million in the fall, and the rates are set at the time of the draw because it's based on a formula. We did do a competitive process by request for expressions of interest. We received bids in June, sent the REI to 10 banks, received bids from 8 banks. 5 banks offered commitments of $175 million each. The rates ranged for 1.99% to 2.21 at the time of the bid. So they were using what the market rates were at the time. PNC provided the lowest overall rate in full capacity, and Bank of America agreed to match the rates and terms, and we tried to split for a whole host of reasons. So the competitive bid process was the lowest possible rate for the notes, which met our timing requirements and disclosure requirements. Total estimated interest cost to maturity of the notes based on the total issuance is about $2.6 million. And I'll point out with maturity, for example, last year we proposed to go out till June. We actually, looking at our cash flow, believe we can have everything repaid by the end of March. So we're borrowing less money than last year, and we're borrowing it for shorter increments of time, and that's going to, once everything is done, we'll be able to tell you how much we save, but we ultimately will save several $million as compared to prior years.
That's great. Are there any questions for Mr. Munson? Mr. Wong?
How does the TRAN rate compare to an upcoming capital borrowing rate, roughly?
So it is different that it's a short-term note, and we're really playing on what the market short-term variable rate rates are. Obviously, we won't know until we go to the market, which we're planning to do in October. Where there you're doing blended because you're since interest rates are so low, it's great for short-term borrowing. It's good for the front end of a capital borrowing. People don't necessarily want to lock up low rates for 30 years. So blending that and balancing that out as part of the whole process. We'll work with whomever our advisors are and whichever underwriters are working with at the time to balance that out over the course of the 30 years and do some other things looking different coupon rates. But obviously this bodes well for where we'll be hopefully in a couple months. We will not be at 2%. That's not where long-term rates will be. But I expect we will do better than we did a year ago, March, last time we went to the capital markets. And obviously we'll do a full analysis at the time we presented both in the Facilities and Finance Committee meeting and bring it before the board in October. But again, barring the market moving away from us, which we can only control so much, I expect we'll do just this. Plus, it's the first time we're going to be able to use the new bond rating. So I think that combination should do very well for us.
Are there any other questions from board members?
I have 2 questions. This is Dr. McColgan. My first question is, Ori, Mr. Munson, you've done an amazing job of, reducing what we spend on the TRAN each year. And but my question are twofold. One, how is what we're borrowing this year compared to how much we're borrowing last year, and what the overall cost will be to us this year? And then we've had this conversation many times before, but long-term plan, is there any way we can continue to advocate with the city or state to find ways to even out our revenue, such as, changing something about when taxes are collected or whatever needs to be done to even out our revenue so that in the long term, we can get rid of this millions of dollars in spending?
So we're borrowing about $75 million less than last year in net. It's $175 now. We expect to do another TRAN. And again, as part of our spacing, we don't need all the money now. So we're going to come back to you to do another short-term borrowing, probably about $200 million we're estimating. So a total of $375 for the year. I think we're working with as much as we can within the calendar year and with our cash flow. So I mentioned that we're doing a shorter maturity, delaying taking all the money now as we look at our cash flow when we actually need the money, are all ways to reduce the interest burden. We did work with the city. So the city grant now is almost, I think it's over $230 million now. It's, as part of the changes last year, that amount has been growing. It used to be that that money came in at the very end of the year. We worked with the city finance department and finance director, and they agreed to pay it quarterly so that we're getting the money better to fit our cash flow. On the expense side, there's certain things we simply can't control. We have payroll we have to meet. We have quarterly payments for PSERS payments to the state. The charter payments, which have been growing, obviously, are all things that cyclically we have no control over and are going to happen. You did mention the issue of, and a lot of suburban districts, their school taxes are collected in August, so they don't have these issues, and that they have their cash up front and they basically spend it over the year. Unfortunately, to do that in the city, you'd have to move either the entire real estate tax date or even just the school district portion tax payment date by 6 months, which either means that we forego revenues for, we get paid once in 18 months, or people have to pay twice in 18 months. And I'm not confident that either is a, actually, I'm confident that neither is going to happen. Let me put it that way.
Which is a shame because, again, it's millions of dollars wasted each year.
Correct. I mean, right. There are better uses of the millions of dollars we spend in interest. I think we're doing our best to keep that as low as possible to allow us to operate and operate efficiently. And obviously, there are thousands of governments across the country that operate this way and are have to because of the timing. It's so much dependent on real estate taxes. It comes in once a year. No matter what, you're going to have cash flow issues. I don't know of a grand bargain solution to fix that for something that was set 100 years ago, long before our cash flow was an issue for folks. I do think wherever there are opportunities, and it's constantly a balancing act because we want to have enough money in the bank that we're carrying over so that we can deal with an unexpected issue, but we don't want to be carrying so much money when there's so much need in the schools. So, we don't. Yes, if we had $600 million in the bank, we would never need to borrow, but we have hundreds of millions of dollars in needs in the school, and that's not the best. So it's a constant balancing act we're looking at. I feel very good about where we are this year, given what we have, what our realities are. I think it's an issue we keep looking at in terms of, again, working out the quarterly payment schedule with the city. Are there things when we look at our debt borrowings, anything else we look at, keeping in mind cash flow is something we do constantly in the finance office. So I think I don't think there's a fix, but I think that's something we need to be mindful of and intentional about as we make a lot of our financial decisions.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Munson? Seeing none, we'll move to our speakers. Do we have any speakers from the public? Oh, such a jokester. If there are no speakers from the public, I think we can forego our speakers policy reading by our general counsel. And so with that, it's now time to vote on our only action item. Board members, can I have a motion and a second to consider action item number 1?
So moved.
I'll second.
And I'll call on our bond counsel to state the motion. You want to?
I can't hear her.
Yeah.
She's coming to the microphone. Make her earn her.
To move the adoption of action item number 1, the title of the resolution before you. Resolution of the Board of Education of the School District of Philadelphia authorizing the issuance and sale of tax and revenue anticipation notes of the school district in fiscal year 2020.
Are there any questions, any additional questions for Mr. Munson or regarding this item? Seeing none, Ms. Rock, would you please call the roll? Call the vote.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Danzy?
Yes.
Ms. Fix-Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Huang?
Yes.
Dr. McColgan?
Yes.
Dr. McGinley?
Dr. McGinley.
Dr. McGinley?
Yes, yes.
Thank
Sorry.
you. I'll just announce in case it's not coming through in the recording. Dr.
There goes the
McColgan voted
quorum.
yes. Dr. McGinley voted yes. Dr. McIver?
Yes.
Vice President Walker?
Yes.
Vice President Walker, also participating by phone, voted yes. President Wilkerson?
Yes.
Thank you. The vote is adopted by 8-0, an affirmative vote of the board to adopt the TRAN. Thank you.
Thank you. Want to thank Mr. Munson and the entire team, Joan Stern, who's been with the district forever, and the rest of the team for the wonderful work. We're excited about the achievements of the whole finance operation of the district. We're seeing opportunities we haven't always enjoyed, and so we appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And with that, unless there's any additional business, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice summer.
Did you get up?
They don't have any decent seats?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You dropped.
Oh, yeah, right, that's bad.
I'll buy some sheets with it. No.
Right, and I'm not gonna pay $499.